Hey guys, it's Matt Curtis. We are going to go around Wind Water Supplies in Anaheim, their yard, to identify material and fittings and what goes with what. So start over here. These are all storm drain fittings. These are HD fittings for HDPE pipe. These are 45s. These are wides. These normally collect to your laterals, which either go to area drains. These are also HDPE fittings. These are called Nyloplast fittings. They're more expensive than these, but they're just a little thicker. Uh, this is the HDPE coupling. Basically, whenever you fix the pipe that's broken, if you got to replace a section or if it's just one little chunk that you took out, you can wrap this over and then zip tie through these two holes right here, and that'll clamp over your pipe. Yeah, the rest of it, wides, fittings, 45s, that's all kind of the same stuff. Right over here, we have SDR 35. This pipe is used for storm drain and sewer. It's gravity, and it's either storm drain or sewer for this one. There's no other option for that, basically. And how you install it is basically you just get pipe soap, you lube up the rubber, you stick the spigot end right here inside the bell, and you slam it until you go past this line right here. That's when you know you've hit home.
And does it lock in place with this?
It's not a locking gasket, so you can still pull it apart. There are locking gaskets, but that's for
So it's more sealing than it is locking.
Just for sealing.
Okay.
And that's just how you put them together.
So this pipe, if I needed a shorter stick, is this one of the pipes I'd have to bevel?
Yes, this pipe you have to bevel to install any bell piece that, whether it's a bell or a fitting, you have to have a beveled spigot end for it.
So these come, if it's a full stick, it's going to already have the bevel on it.
Yes, it's going to have a factory
like the
bevel.
bevel's here, but
Yep.
if it doesn't have that and you had to cut it for some reason, you have to create a bevel.
Which I will show on the next video of when I cut pipe, how to bevel each different kinds of pipe properly.
Perfect. Do you have to add this mark back to it when you bevel it?
Every time I cut a piece of pipe, when it doesn't matter what kind of pipe it is, whether it's this, whether it's ductile, whether it's C900, every time you cut a piece of pipe, you always put a 1 foot mark. So you can always measure where it's going in, whether you're putting it into another bell or you're putting it into a fitting, you can always measure that from that 1 foot. You know that's where your end of your pipe is. So let's say you didn't stab it in all the way. You measure 1 foot and it comes to right here on the bell. You know that pipe needs to go in until that 1 foot mark is right here from the end of the pipe. All right, so this is a C900 pipe. This is your thick plastic pipe. They either have DR14 or DR18. This is DR14, so this is the thicker of the two. They both are used for water. DR14 is just a little bit thicker than DR18 and a little bit more expensive. Same thing as the SDR over there as far as cutting and beveling. It's the same thing. Cut it, you put a 1 foot mark. This pipe is used for domestic water and fire water, and sometimes for sewer mains, but that's very rare. Either that or ductile. But yeah, basically for all your hydrant runs, your house connections, your main lines, all your house connections would come off of this with saddles, and this is your water, domestic and fire.
Go.
All right, over here. These are all different kinds of hydrant berries. All of these fittings that you see that are all one solid piece that come with the 90, whether this is an MJ, this is a push-on, which requires no bolts unless you use all thread to restrain it. This requires an MJ fitting, and at the bottom of all these is flange. They have their own nuts, bolts, and gaskets for that. But all of these right here are for fire hydrants. These are all spools. These are ductile iron spools. We use them for backflow devices. Occasionally, depending on the city standards, these can be used for fire hydrants as well. Mostly for devices, and hydrants is what these are used for. All these little spools are just extensions, for elevations in case you need to bring it up. You've got these spools, these berries. This is ductile iron pipe, class 350. Has the class right there. Every single piece of pipe should be labeled. This is the thinner of the ductile iron. There's also class 53, which is thicker. This is what's typically used depending on what what municipality you're working in, and this is also used for only fire and water line. This pipe right here is called HDPE pipe. This is strictly used for storm drain. This connects to the fittings that were shown at the beginning of the video. Storm drain only, no sewer. That's used for. This is Schedule 40 pipe. Schedule 40 PVC. So this can either be used for storm drain sometimes, but most of the time it's water lines. It's the thicker of the two schedules. You got Schedule 40 and Schedule 80, which is a gray pipe, which is more commonly used for water services than this, but this can also be used for water and storm drain as well. Schedule 40 pipe, but it's called perforated pipe. It comes in with holes in it so that water, the intent of this is for water when it goes down the sides of the buildings. We put in what you call a French wrap or a burrito drain, and basically it's this pipe. You basically lay down Marify, which is a fabric, up against the wall, and you lay this pipe at a slope with rock. You cover it up with rock, and you wrap it in fabric and backfill it with dirt, and basically whatever comes down that wall will go into this pipe and be dispersed. Pipe. This is for installation of this. It's always primer and red hot blue glue. To connect these, they come with couplings. There's no belt end fittings on these. There is Schedule 80 pipe that does come with bells, but it's maybe after a certain size or a different manufacturer. But this is put together with couplings. These are your fire risers. These are stainless steel fire risers. These ones happen to be push on by flange, and we install these inside of for fire risers for inside of the building for them to connect for all of their above sprinkler fire system. These right here are catch basins. They vary in size between basically 24-inch, 18-inch, 24-inch, 30-inch, 36-inch. They vary. They're for storm drain. We install them for V-gutters and area drains, and that's what these are used for. All right, these right here are flange fittings for water material. This is an MJ by Flange T. Normally hook up hydrants or basically wherever the line, if you have a T in the street, that's where it goes. You got T's, 90s up there. This is all flange material right here. Again, it's all for water. You got your 90s, your 45s.
Now we went through in dry utilities over the differences in your 45s, 22s, and all that, and it's all for pulling things. So now we're into wet things. Why do I need to change it up from a 45 to?
Oh, it all depends on how the job's drawn up. Sometimes your angle point's just a 45.
Okay.
You know, it's either, so when they draw it up, it's either, normally it's at a 45 or a 22 or an 11/4 bend, so you just use one bend, but sometimes they do have funky angles where you have to take a 45 and add a 22 to it to get that angle.
Right.
But normally the way it's engineered, it's normally 45s or 22s or 11. It just depends on how it's engineered.
Perfect.
So these are your push-on fittings right here. These don't require any bolt up again. This is simply, you just put the rubber in, lube it up, and you stab the piece of pipe in. Unless you want, they call for restraints. Again, you would get all thread, you would stick this through, and then there's a clamp that you put on the pipe that has ears on it, and you stick the all thread through and tighten it down, and that's just another way of securing the pipe to make sure that it doesn't blow out. With push on, we normally put all thread on just to double check and make sure that everything's gonna be good.
Would the PSI change the difference of that, how that's set up, or is it
No.
nothing have to do?
No. Down here, these are just flange reducers to take you from one size of pipe to another size of pipe. Right here we have push on by flange. As you can see, a lot of these fittings, they come with different, like one side will be flange and one side will be push on, just like these. You can get push on by flange, MJ by flange, or flange. So you get your T's, your 45s, push on by flange 90s. Push on by flange. These are push on by flange adapters, and those those hook up to the flange on the T's, or whether they're flange 45s. That's how you go from a flange to just a straight piece of pipe that you stab in. Here's a roll of soft copper. It's like 3/4 inch.
Is that like water service?
Yeah,
pipe?
so this pipe is mainly for water services. Copper, whether it's 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 1.25 inch. We use copper for water services, also blue poly pipe for water services, depending on what municipality. No. These are called companion flanges or tap flanges, and a lot of times we use these for testing our fire lines or our domestic lines. We put them on top of a flange to go ahead and screw in. This comes threaded to screw in what we call a test tree, to be able to pump up our line to a certain pressure and test it for the city. Normally that pressure is 200. It varies between 200 and 250.
So is that piece reusable?
Yes, those are all reusable. Here are your Megalug kits for all of your MJ fittings. Basically what a Megalug kit looks like. I can't open up one of their packages, but this goes with all the MJ fittings, all of these Megalug kits. Again, SDR can be used for sewer or for storm drain, either or. Right here you have bell spigot 45s. So basically this end would go into another bell or into a piece of pipe, a belled piece of pipe. This can't connect to a spigot end, it has to go into a bell.
So straight pipe or another piece of a...
These are different. These are belled on both sides. So over here it has to be straight pipe on both sides. This has to go into a belled end. This is just straight pipe on both sides. So that's bell, that's bell by spigot. Those are 45s. Some 90s of the same thing.
Bell by spigot.
These are your SDR Ys. We use Ys for services, for sewer laterals, for all the laterals, for cleanouts. But yeah, it's just another sewer and storm drain material. Here's a coupling. This is called an SDR repair coupling. Basically what you do is you lube up the straight piece of pipe. If you have a section of pipe you need to put in, you lube it up, you slide it over the pipe, drop in your pipe, and slide it back over. Again, when you put your piece of pipe in there, you make sure you have a 1 foot mark on your piece of pipe so you can measure to make sure that your pipe is directly in the center when you slide it over. So these are repair couplings for SDR. SDR caps, those go on our risers or ends of pipes. Yeah, so a riser, like if it was a clean out and it's coming up, we would put this on top of it. If it's a sewer line, we put these on just for testing purposes because you have to test the line, but we put these caps on so that debris and other things don't fall in there. But yeah, the caps just basically go on the risers, whether it's a clean out or, yeah. Reducers, I have them right here labeled 8x4, 8x6, just how you transition from size to size. And over here, all your MJ fittings. Got MJ reducers up there. It's the same concept as the push-on fittings and the flange fittings. It's just MJ. These require those Megalug kits that we just looked at back there. It's a gasket with a rubber, a gland, and T-bolts. Sometimes they have to be stainless, depending on the municipality and city standards. And here's your 45s, 22s down there, 11 1/4s over there. These right here, these are called MJ solid sleeves. We use these a lot for our water tie-ins. This basically does the same thing that SDR coupling that I just showed you does. You can get your measurements, you stick your pipe in, you slide this over the pipe, and you drop the other piece of pipe down, and same thing. Slide it halfway over, check your 1 foot mark, make sure it's in the middle, and then you go ahead and put your rubbers and gaskets and bolts in. And that's basically the same thing as that coupling, but this is for water. It would be called an MJ by flange because this side is flat. Flange is always flat. MJ is grooved. So flange just takes a gasket with nuts and bolts. Flange takes a rubber with a gland with T-bolts. So there's a big, I mean, that's the difference between flange and MJ. But yeah, MJ is mechanical joint. Push on is explanatory. You just push it on. And flange requires bolt kits. Okay, over here, these are stainless steel repair couplings. These are used for storm drain or sewer. This with the stainless steel strap, it's just a little more secure. If you look at one of your regular Fernco couplings, it only has 2 bands on it, and it's a little iffy in the middle. It's kind of flexible in the middle, but when you have these stainless steel straps, it keeps any kind of offset from happening inside. Because sometimes when you use the regular couplings, you know, regular Fernco, sometimes when you backfill or something, it offsets a little bit. You know, the stainless steel, that's the way to go when doing a repair on sewers and coming out of manholes that require couplings. So those are stronger, they're better, they're more durable, they're more dependable. But these Ferncos are basically like, these are, this takes you from 6-inch clay pipe to a 6-inch piece of plastic pipe. So there are different kinds of Fernco couplings. You have these ones right here. There are some that are made for plastic and some that are made for clay. The ones that are made for clay, they're going to have a bigger ID inside dimension because clay is thicker than SDR. So, for instance, a Fernco coupling for plastic is going to be smaller than a Fernco coupling for clay. Actually, that's the same one.
So because you brought it up, when you're ordering material and stuff like that, you use ID or OD when you're...
You just use the size of the pipe.
But is that determined from outside dimensions or inside dimensions?
The size of the pipe is inside dimensions.
Okay.
Inside dimensions. So if you were to take a tape measure and go across the pipe, if it was 6 inch, it'd be right at 6 inch. The thickness changes, you know what I mean? The IDs of pipe shouldn't change.
Okay.
So. Okay. These couplings right here, these are called Miramax couplings, or Max Adapter, and those are for HDPE. These are also what we call inserted tees. Instead of putting in an HDPE actual tee, you can actually go down wherever you want to put it, either on top of the pipe, on the side of the pipe, and you just drill a hole and you stick this coupling inside and tighten it down, and it seals it instead of having to put in a whole new tee. If something's added, those are easy access, and they're fast. They're fast to use. And these are all different types of valves. Valves are used for fire and water. You have different kinds: MJ, flange, MJ biflange. Yeah, this is all water material.
These normally come up in the middle of a street, or where do these usually find a valve?
Well, a lot of times they have isolation valves, so they might be, if your pipe's a certain amount of distance, they might just have one in the middle of your run, or a lot of times they're used at tees, so you can isolate valves. Like if you have a line going off like this and tees off this way, a lot of times they'll put a valve and a valve and a valve on those tees so you can isolate every angle that it's going. So anytime we do a water tie-in, we always have a valve that's connected to the tee, just so you can always shut that off going onto the property. So anytime you do a tie-in, there's always going to be a valve, whether it's on each side of the tee or if it's just on one side that feeds on site. But you're always going to have valves on tees. Up over here, these are called flex couplings. Those again are for water tie-ins or repairs. They do basically the same thing as an MJ sleeve. You take it and you slide it over the pipe. The good thing about these is they can go from different kinds of pipe. They have transition couplings, so they have different ODs on each side, and you can tighten it down. So you can go from a ductile iron pipe to a steel pipe, or they have all different ranges. So they're pretty they're pretty useful. Don't use them as much, but yeah, it's another way of doing water tie-ins. Here are all your fire hydrants, different brands, different kinds. Again, depends on which city you're working in, what they call out for. Over here are your nut bolts and gasket kits. These are for all the flange fittings. These are what we use, either stainless steel or we just use regular cat plated, depending on what city you're working for. These are a lot more expensive, stainless steel. Here are your gaskets. This is generally what we use. This is called a non-asbestos gasket, but again, it all varies. You have multiple different kinds of gaskets, black rubber gaskets. So the difference in these gaskets is this is called a full face gasket. It comes with bolts. These are a little bit of a pain when you're trying to do a water tie-in sometimes, just to get them in, because the bolts need to match up. These are just regular ones. makeup. You have nipples over here, couplings, plugs. Oh, these are galvanized fittings. A lot of this stuff is used for backflow devices. Not galvanized so much as brass, but little backflow devices, 1 and 2 inch backflow devices.
Is this part of the water system, or what?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So a lot of times, not this, but actually brass. I think they have some on the other side.
So is it safe to say everything going in is coming in copper, and if going out for
Yeah.
backflow, it's going to be going into steel?
Yeah. So what we do with this is, like I said, it's not normally it's not galvanized normally, but so you run your water service in from the street. You have your water meter box, and let's say you have a backflow device that comes out the back side of that water meter box. So you come out with the brass fitting, and then you'd come up with a 90, then you'd have a riser, another 90 on top, then you have your backflow device, little 1 or 2 inch backflow device, or 3/4 inch, whatever it calls for. Then you come down with a 6 inch nipple with a union on it, and then another nipple this size that goes into the ground. And that's basically how you put your backflow devices together. All right, so this stuff is our basic water service material. This is a saddle. This clamps onto your pipe. Then you come in and you drill a hole. You stick your cork stop in there. That's your cork stop to turn the water on and off. Then you run your copper. You bring it up at the correct elevation that it needs to be at, and this is your angle meter stop, which a box goes on top of that. This is normally about anywhere between 7 to 10 inches below curb, right behind curb, and there's a box that goes over it. This is what feeds most of the houses, is that angle meter stop. Then you have a meter right here, and on the back side of the meter, however the plumber connects.
So is this coming from my main?
This is from your main.
And then it comes up here, and this is going to be my service going to the house?
Going to
or
your
a
house.
building, yeah. Okay.
And that's typical for a 1 inch water service for any track home or anything you're doing.
And you said this one, where is it in general? Right
Generally,
by the curb.
Generally, it's behind curb. That all varies, but generally, it's a couple inches behind curb and anywhere from like 7 to 10 inches down to the center. That's normally, but like I said, different standards, different cities. Some people want 7 inches and 9 inches, so it all varies. But that's the general idea. So meter connects from here, and you have another one of these valves on the back side, or a customer service valve on the back side of the meter. But we don't normally touch that stuff. That's the plumbers.
Okay.
So that's your basic water service setup. Here are your saddles. They come all differently. This requires a double stainless steel strap. All different kinds of saddles, all different kinds of manufacturers, but these are for water services. Over here, these are all your brass fittings, like I was talking about, that you have for a lot of blow-offs and all your 1 and 2 inch and 3/4 inch backflow devices. That's where a lot of that brass copper comes in. Just a basic Schedule 40 for that thinner white water pipe. Just fittings for it, adapters, female adapters, you screw on, bushings to go down. I mean, it's your basic fittings, 45s, 90s, couplings, all that. There's all your tape that you put over your, this is detectable tape. So you install your water main, you put your foot of sand, and then this goes on top of the foot of sand. So that when anybody's digging by, they should be able to come across this before they find our water lines, because we'll have a foot of sand over it. And if they hit it, then they're not operating very good. Sewer, storm drain, water.
What's the red?
Fire.
Okay.
So red's fire. This is non-detectable water tape, which we rarely ever use. Everything's always detectable, but fire, storm drain, water, sewer. This down here is tracer wire. Depending on what the city wants, you either got 12 gauge or 14 gauge. What we do here is we run it along our pipe, and we tape it so that cities can come up and they can hook up to the wire inside of a box, and they're able to chase and trace where the line goes. That's the use for that. So we run these all the way up through our valve can so they can connect, and just on the top of our pipes.